What if the most beautiful dreams could lead to the most horrific nightmares? Imagine a city built on illusions, a place where aspiring stars flocked with hope in their eyes, only to be swallowed by an unspeakable darkness. In the golden age of Hollywood, a crime so brutal, so grotesque, would shatter this facade of glamour forever. This is not a work of fiction. This is the story of a woman whose name would become synonymous with Hollywood's darkest secret. A secret that, to this day, lies buried in the shadows of the City of Angels. This is the story of the Black Dahlia, and what you are about to hear will haunt you. Welcome to TSF History, the channel that uncovers the most compelling and often shocking stories from our past. If you're fascinated by the mysteries that time has tried to forget, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single one of our deep dives into history. Now, let's journey back to a time of post-war optimism and Hollywood glamour, to a city that was about to be rocked by a crime that would define an era. Our story begins in the winter of 1947. Los Angeles was a city of contrasts. On one hand, it was the shimmering heart of the global film industry, a place of sun-drenched boulevards, movie premieres, and dreams of stardom. But beneath this glittering surface lay a darker, grittier reality of struggling souls and shattered hopes. One of these souls was a 22-year-old woman named Elizabeth Short. Born in Boston, Elizabeth was a striking beauty with porcelain skin and a cascade of dark hair. Like so many others, she was drawn to the magnetic pull of Hollywood, hoping to see her name in lights. She had a transient life, moving between Florida, California, and her home state, always chasing a dream that seemed just out of reach. She worked as a waitress, took on odd jobs, and moved through a circle of acquaintances, leaving behind a trail of fleeting impressions. The press would later paint her in broad, often unflattering strokes, but the reality was more nuanced. She was a young woman with a troubled past, including the abandonment of her father, who she later discovered was alive. She was known for her penchant for black clothing, which combined with the release of the film The Blue Dahlia would earn her the posthumous and now infamous nickname, the Black Dahlia. January 9th, 1947. This was the last day anyone could definitively trace Elizabeth Short's movements. She was seen at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, a grand and bustling establishment. She made a few phone calls, met with her sister, and then seemingly vanished into the city's sprawling landscape. For 6 days there was silence. 6 days in which her fate remained a terrifying unknown. Then came the morning of January 15th. In a quiet residential neighborhood of Leimert Park, a mother out for a walk with her young child noticed something peculiar in a vacant lot. At first, she thought it was a discarded mannequin, its pale form stark against the green grass. But as she drew closer, a wave of horror washed over her. This was no mannequin. It was the naked, mutilated body of a woman. The scene that confronted the first responding officers was one of unparalleled brutality.
The body had been severed in two at the waist, with the precision of a surgeon. It had been completely drained of blood, and there was evidence of extensive torture. Her face was carved with a grotesque, permanent smile, a Glasgow smile, stretching from ear to ear. The body had been meticulously cleaned and posed, a horrifying tableau for the world to see. There was not a single drop of blood at the scene, indicating that the murder had taken place elsewhere. The LAPD was faced with a crime of unimaginable savagery. Using a primitive form of a fax machine, they sent the victim's fingerprints to the FBI. The identification came back swiftly. The victim was Elizabeth Short. The news exploded, and the Black Dahlia murder case was born. The media descended on the story like vultures. Newspapers, hungry for sensational headlines, splashed gruesome details and speculative stories across their front pages. They portrayed Elizabeth as a promiscuous tease, a Hollywood wannabe who had met a grisly end due to her supposed loose morals. This narrative, while selling papers, did a great disservice to the memory of the victim and complicated the investigation. The LAPD, under immense public pressure to solve the case, launched one of the largest manhunts in the city's history. Hundreds of officers were assigned, and thousands of people were interviewed. The investigation was a sprawling and often chaotic affair, plagued by false leads and a deluge of confessions. Over 60 people, mostly men, would confess to the murder, all of them eventually being dismissed as publicity seekers or mentally unstable individuals. The killer, however, seemed to revel in the attention. A few days after the discovery of the body, the editor of the Los Angeles Examiner received a chilling phone call. The caller claimed to be the murderer and offered to send some of Elizabeth Short's belongings as proof. Shortly after, a package arrived. It contained her birth certificate, social security card, photographs, and an address book with some pages torn out. The items had been wiped clean with gasoline, erasing any potential fingerprints. The killer also sent a series of taunting, cut-and-paste letters to the press. They were a jumble of words clipped from magazines and newspapers, creating a sense of a cunning and deranged mind at play. One of the notes read, "Here it is, turning in wed, January 29th, 10 a.m. Had my fun at police, Black Dahlia Avenger." But the promised surrender never happened. The killer remained a ghost, a phantom who had committed an atrocious act and then vanished without a trace.
Over the decades, countless theories have emerged, and a rogues gallery of potential suspects has been scrutinized. But a few have stood out, their stories weaving a complex and disturbing web of possibilities. One of the earliest suspects was Robert "Red" Manley, the last person known to have seen Elizabeth alive. He was a married salesman who had given her a ride and spent some time with her. He was interrogated extensively and even subjected to a polygraph test, which he passed. He was eventually cleared, but the suspicion and media attention haunted him for the rest of his life. Then there were the more sinister figures lurking in the shadows of Los Angeles. One prominent theory revolved around a wealthy and well-connected physician named Dr. George Hodel. Hodel was a brilliant but deeply troubled man with a dark side. He was known to have a fascination with surrealist art, some of which depicted dismembered female bodies.
He also had surgical training, which could explain the precise bisection of Elizabeth's body. The most compelling evidence against Hodel came from his own son, Steve Hodel, a retired LAPD homicide detective. After his father's death, Steve began his own investigation and uncovered a trove of disturbing information. He found photographs of a woman he believes was Elizabeth Short among his father's belongings. He also discovered that his father's handwriting bore a striking resemblance to that of the taunting letters sent by the Black Dahlia Avenger. Most chillingly, transcripts of secret police surveillance of George Hodel's home in 1950 revealed him saying, "Supposin' I did kill the Black Dahlia. They can't prove it now. They can't talk to my secretary because she's dead." While this was not a direct confession, it was a deeply incriminating statement. Steve Hodel is convinced that his father was the killer and that he was also responsible for a string of other unsolved murders. He believes his father's powerful connections within the city allowed him to escape justice. Another intriguing suspect was Leslie Dillon, a bellhop and aspiring writer who had an uncanny knowledge of the case's details. He was brought to the attention of the police by a psychiatrist who believed Dillon was the killer. Dillon was held and questioned for days, but a lack of concrete evidence led to his release. Some theories suggest he may have been involved, perhaps not as the primary killer, but as an accomplice. The list of suspects is long and varied, including other doctors, small-time criminals, and even famous figures of the era. The sheer number of possibilities speaks to the chaos of the investigation and the dark underbelly of a city where secrets were a form of currency. Decades have passed since that grim January morning. The vacant lot where Elizabeth Short's body was found is now a quiet suburban home. The Grand Biltmore Hotel still stands, a monument to a bygone era, its opulent lobby holding the echoes of a mystery that has never been solved. The Black Dahlia murder case has become more than just a crime. It's a modern myth, a cautionary tale about the perils of chasing fame in a city of broken dreams. It has inspired countless books, films, and television shows, each trying to unravel the tangled threads of this enduring enigma. But behind the legend, the sensational headlines, and the gruesome details, we must remember the human element. We must remember Elizabeth Short. She was not just the Black Dahlia, a one-dimensional caricature created by the media. She was a daughter, a sister, a young woman with hopes and fears, whose life was brutally extinguished. Her story is a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the most glamorous of surfaces. Why does this case continue to captivate us? Perhaps it's the sheer brutality of the crime, a level of cruelty that is hard to comprehend. Perhaps it's the Hollywood setting, the stark contrast between the dream factory and the nightmarish reality of Elizabeth's fate. Or perhaps it's the fact that the killer was never caught, that they walked away from such a monstrous act and lived out their days in anonymity. The Black Dahlia murder is a cold case, a file that remains officially open at the LAPD, but the chances of it ever being solved are slim to none. The witnesses are gone, the suspects are dead, and the trail has long since gone cold. All that remains is the haunting question: who killed the Black Dahlia? It's a question that has echoed through the decades, a chilling whisper in the history of Los Angeles. The answer is likely lost to time, buried with the secrets of those who were there. The Black Dahlia's killer took their identity to the grave, leaving behind a legacy of fear, speculation, and a crime that has become Hollywood's most enduring and darkest secret.
What are your thoughts on this infamous unsolved case? Who do you think was responsible for the murder of Elizabeth Short? Let us know in the comments below. We read all of your theories and insights. If you found this deep dive into the Black Dahlia mystery as fascinating as we did, please give this video a like and share it with others who are intrigued by the darker side of history. And don't forget to subscribe to TSF History and ring that notification bell for more historical mysteries and shocking true stories. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the shadows of the past. Until next time, stay curious.